Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum. So this is the first all-electric pickup truck from Ford, and production started in April 2022, and it is part of the 14th generation of the F-Series. So all models / trim levels of this vehicle, which are the Pro, XLT, Lariat, and the top of the range model, this Platinum, have full-time four-wheel drive and independent rear suspension. But yeah, what separates this version apart from the others, outside of all of the extra gubbings that it's got going on underneath, is the extra power, as this has 563 horsepower and 775 pounds-feet of torque from its dual permanent magnetic motors plus 131 kilowatt-hour battery. So yeah, the base model though only has 452 horsepower, so yeah, you've got 111 extra horsepower there, although all models have the same pounds-feet of torque, 775 pounds-feet, which I imagine is just so you can make sure that this car is still able to carry the same kind of payload, as well as have the same kind of towing capacity, as yeah, you can fit 2,235 pounds in this pickup truck, which is a huge amount, although 400 pounds of that is saved for the front, as you can see, which is yeah, really nice to see that it's yeah, using the aspects of the well, the positive aspects of an electric car to its full advantage, because obviously you don't have an engine in this, you have two motors, one at the front, one at the rear, and all of the batteries underneath the passenger cab. So yeah, unlike some electric cars which clearly have been made based on a combustion engine chassis, this is all based on its own kind of electric chassis. So yeah, you can take full advantage of the front there, and yeah, still have plenty of towing capacity and payload capacity in the rear. So yeah, and 400 pounds for that small amount of space is pretty large. And yeah, inside, as you'd expect, it's really rather quite luxurious. Got a nice array of buttons still, so it's not all based on the touch screen, which is again nice to see. Nothing worse than electric cars that have everything in the touch screen, which yeah, as we all know, is not a safe thing whatsoever. Obviously it's got cup holders, being an American car, and yeah, being electric is obviously an automatic, as it only has a one gear, which you'd expect to be a big plus point for Americans who typically only drive automatics. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a plus for them. And yeah, massive amounts of space in the rear as well. Again, you've got cup holders, and yeah, just all looks really rather nice, and plenty of light and air going on in there. Although you'd have to say, for a vehicle of this size and weight, you would have liked a bit more room for more passengers, but still plenty of room in the back as well for the bed. And yeah, because it is electric, it is substantially heavier than other F-150s, as it weighs 7,070 pounds, 1,800 pounds of which is for the batteries alone, and yeah, that's around 3.2 tons, which is immense amount of weight, quite frankly. But it still has a reasonable amount of power and torque to go with that weight, and obviously being electric, that power and torque is instantaneous. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. So yeah, being an electric car, acceleration is the name of the game with these kind of vehicles, and even though it's a very heavy car with not the best aerodynamics by any means, it's still a reasonably quick car in terms of acceleration. So let's get on this drag strip, see how quick we can go before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll go on the off-road course, and then that I've typically used for off-road vehicles, and then we'll even go around the track. So yeah, let's see what this car can do. We use a bit of launch control. Yeah, as you can see, despite weighing 3.2 tons, it's more than capable of getting up to a reasonable rate of speed in no time at all. Yeah, spoilers, here's its top speed. 110 technically, but it can apparently get up to 111 given enough room. So yeah, which is plenty of speed, quite frankly, especially given how much this weighs. You really don't want to be going too fast in a car that weighs this much. But because it does have permanent all-wheel drive and independent rear suspension and plenty of off-road capability, it's more than able to deal with the rough stuff, as you will now see. So yeah, and it's really rather impressive here, and it's really rather fun as well. All of that torque is not put to waste on these kind of surfaces. And yeah, it's proper fun to drive as well. It really does like to slide out, which, considering how much this weighs, you'd think it would be a lot less controllable, but it really isn't. And you only have to compare it to the, I think it's the Julie F-150. Compare it to that, which weighs even more than this, I think. And yeah, that is a entirely more cumbersome car than this. When you can take into consideration the amount of weight in both vehicles, and it shows how much more advanced this is over that vehicle. Not to say that this isn't without its flaws. Obviously the braking is not all that great. To get it to stop from 100 mile an hour, you're talking nearly 380 feet, which is a huge amount of space. So yeah, it's not the best in terms of braking, and obviously weighing as much as it does and being as large as a vehicle as it is, it's not the most nimble of vehicles, although here it definitely feels a lot more nimble than it actually would be. Still, it's more than capable of dealing with the rough stuff, but it's also more than capable of dealing with the on-road stuff as well. So yeah, let's get to the track and see just what this can do. And yeah, obviously you've got the advantages of very little in the way of noise with this being an electric car, which again is a plus point. Although I'm imagining this might be a hard sell for the typical kind of pickup truck buyer, especially when it comes to the range, when you take into consideration payloads or what you were towing. Because if you were to tow a caravan or a trailer that weighs about the same as this, then the range drops from about 400 miles to about 90, which is a major drop in range. So yeah, but if you've only got a £1,000 payload, you can still get around 300 miles out of this, which is still fairly decent. So yeah, let's take a look at the stats first. So we're in low-end B class, which again is no surprise given how much this weighs. And yeah, but it does have 50-50 weight distribution, which is really rather good and really rather necessary given how much this weighs. And yeah, the acceleration, launch and off-road capability are all really good, but as you can see, the handling, braking and top speed aren't that great. But yeah, top speed really shouldn't be the name of the game with this kind of vehicle anyway, so I'm not too fussed about it only being able to do 110 miles an hour. So yeah, let's first listen to the car for a little bit, because it does make some noise despite being an electric car, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, it does make a little bit of noise, but not obviously a lot given it's an electric car, but I'm a kind of a fan of the noise some electric cars make, and yeah, this makes a decent noise, so yeah, plus points there. And plus points as well in terms of acceleration. 0 to 60 is dealt with in only 4.015 seconds, and 0 to 100 is dealt with in 10.1 seconds, and as we've already seen, this can do 110 miles an hour at the top end. But where this does suffer a little bit, or quite a lot actually, is in terms of braking and handling. It is rather cumbersome. Now granted, the early 2000s Lightning was hardly a great car, but because that didn't weigh as much as this and only had rear wheel drive, that was at least able to turn in somewhat in a decent manner. But this, yeah, you can definitely feel there's a whole heap of understeer in this vehicle, and you definitely have to slow down quite a lot just to get it around a corner at times. Yeah, really have to slow down there. So yeah, it's not great whatsoever in terms of its handling at the limit, but on everyday kind of basis I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine. And yeah, at the end of the day it's still a little bit more secure than the older F-150 Lightning, which, yeah, it had a bit better handling up front, but the rear end was all over the place, being a live axle and way too much power for a vehicle of that type, especially given it didn't weigh very much at the rear end. And yeah, the brakes were woeful on that car, whereas yeah, they're not brilliant on this by any means, but you certainly feel a lot better and feel a lot more secure braking in this than the older car, which, yeah, the brakes on that were pretty dreadful. So yeah, overall a success for Ford, I find. No, it's not perfect, but given it's their first attempt at this, it seems like a really rather good base to start off from. And yeah, they're no doubt going to use this chassis for other vehicles, because I've got a whole heap of SUVs and pickup trucks and the like to base this off of. And yeah, hopefully they iron out the kinks in this, quite frankly. So yeah, you can get your hands on this by completing the Rally Adventure expansion, which does take a little while. Obviously there's well over 20 races and the like to do on that, but yeah, it's well worth doing that DLC just for this alone. But obviously you get more vehicles along the way than just this one. So yeah, and it's a really good car to add to the game. It's the first time we've ever had a vehicle like this on Forza. We've never had an electric pickup before. Obviously we've had electric off-roaders before, but they've been for racing and rallying and the like, not for publics being purchased by the public, whereas this obviously is. So yeah, quite a radical car in that respect in terms of being added to this game, and I'm all for it, quite frankly, because I am a fan of EVs, as long as they're not Teslas. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.